My future mother-in-law keeps trying to ruin my wedding. Me and my fiancé have been engaged for 3 years. But it's all because of my soon-to-be mother-in-law. When we first got engaged, we set the date for exactly a year later. Then, COVID hit and we decided to have a small wedding in our backyard with a few select friends and family members. Anyway, a week before the wedding, my fiancé's mother called and told us that she couldn't come into town because she didn't feel comfortable with everyone being there since COVID. We told her that we understood and we wished that she could be there. She said, "You're still having the wedding?" We told her yes because we both just wanted to get it over with. My fiancé and I aren't very social, so the wedding wasn't going to be big anyway. My husband's mother had a complete meltdown on the phone and called us selfish people who are willing to kill themselves and other people just so we could get married. We told her that we'd wait until the pandemic was over. A year later, it's 2021, we decided that we were still doing the backyard wedding. My husband's mother came into town finally. Then she asked where the wedding venue was and we told her it was in our backyard and she frowned and looked at her son. She started yelling at him in the middle of the restaurant we were sitting at for dinner and telling him that she will not come to a wedding in a filthy backyard. I was overwhelmed and embarrassed by it all and I left the table. I made my way into the bathroom and just stood in a stall crying. She came in and she began yelling at me about it. Then, she began banging on the stall door and telling me not be a coward and come out and talk to her. She continued to do this for 10 minutes until my fiancé came in and dragged her out. So, the next day when she was told by another guest that my fiancé's father would be there, she showed up to our house in a fit of rage. My fiancé let her in because it was pouring down rain and he didn't want her to get sick. She began to storm around my house and scream that she would not be attending the wedding if man was going. We tried to explain to her that my fiancé's father was going no matter what and she could come or not. She instantly calmed down and said fine. 3 days before the wedding, we got a call that everything had been cancelled. So I called his mother, sick of her schemes. I told her that she was not to come to the wedding when we set another date and picked another venue. I told her that she was not to visit my home like she did a few days before ever again and that she would not be able to get in contact with us for a little while after the wedding. His mother threw a fit but I didn't care. I was done with her. In-laws ruining my marriage. I don't even know where to start, so I apologize in advance if this is all over the place. I started dating my boyfriend, now husband, in 2019 and absolutely adored his family. They were so kind and didn't seem to have a mean bone in their body. In 2021 we found I was pregnant and my father-in-law offered for me to move in as we were living with our parents at the time and still only dating. We had our son in 2022 and got married in 2023. You'd think I'd gain some respect from them considering I'm now a part of their family, not only from us being married but from me having their grandson. But no. My pregnancy was hell. They would give so much unsolicited advice, made the rudest comments to us, and try to control how I would do things when my son was born. During my pregnancy, they pushed me to get on food stamps and said they'd buy some off of us for extra money. I told them absolutely not because we don't need it. They kept telling me to lie about being with my husband so they wouldn't account for his income and I'd get approved. My husband and I don't struggle. I've just been a stay-at-home mom for 2 years and we definitely would kind of struggle with a rent payment with one income currently. We dealt with the food stamp thing for months. I also have a brother with autism. They obviously know this, and we were talking about how good this show is called The Good Doctor Whom Has Autism. And my father-in-law says out loud, "I'd never let a retard work on me." My husband lost it on him and I was in tears. I never got an apology for that. Fast forward to the day I gave birth. I basically didn't exist. They came and took pictures of my husband and son. And pictures of them with my son. I wasn't included in any of that. I didn't even get a hug, a congratulations, nothing. Just my husband. I remember just sitting in my hospital bed watching and feeling so alone. The next day we come home and walk in and my mother-in-law asks for my son immediately. Mind you, I texted her before getting home saying we wanted to relax in our room with him at first and just enjoy those first moments. My legs were also starting to swell on the way home from being induced and all the fluids. It was a 40-minute car ride of me dealing with that. Then things started to calm down aside from their random dumbass remarks. Then after we got married a month in November of 2023, I get screenshots sent to me of my mother-in-law talking shit about me with her sister. I didn't believe it at first, considering we had just gotten married and I felt more like family then. She had given me her iPad for my wedding, so yes, I snooped, and sure enough she was completely degrading me. Calling me lazy, saying I'd never achieve anything, I'm a bad mom, and disrespectful. My son and I left that morning and went to my dad's. But came back because she was very sorry she got caught because nothing's changed. I've been a maid since living here. I have OCD. My area is always clean. I'm far from lazy. My son is my pride and joy. I'd do literally anything for that boy. I'm with him 24/7. I never ask people to help with him, keep him overnight, nothing. Her saying I'd never achieve anything was in regards to me saying I wanted to go back to school and start working again. I had just asked her to possibly help on Fridays to just keep an eye on him for 8 hours so I could either go to work or school. She has that day off. I had found someone for him Thursday. And she said in her text she'd never do that because I won't do shit. I'm happy to say I did go back to school without anyone's help and just got my certification for pharmacy tech last month while having my son with me. The constant remarks and comments are so close to pushing me over the edge. I love my husband to death. He's an amazing father and husband. But I'm starting to get disgusted in the marriage. I honestly want no connection with his family anymore. And I feel like he's blind-sided a lot of the time because it's his parents. I'm 100% the type to hold grudges, and I admit that. My family is toxic as it is. I've cut my parents off many of times until I healed and could forgive on my own terms. It's hard to do that when I live here and my husband doesn't fully understand. I've been the black sheep and the most walked all over by both sides of the family. And it really hurts. I just try to love and make people happy. I'm also not the only one that hasn't felt accepted by this family. My husband's cousin's wife had a son 3 months after me, and my mother-in-law's sister has degraded and disrespected her many times too. Their brother also recently got engaged, and the things I've heard them say about her is disgusting. She's the kindest soul. It's like if you aren't blood you don't mean shit to this family. My father-in-law is also racist and makes these remarks and stuff to my son, and I don't know how to handle it. I have people in my close family and friends of different ethnicity. And I refuse to have my son raised that way. He will be kind to everyone no matter their race, disability, etc. I've never stood up for myself, because I try to be respectful. I need any tips or advice on how to deal with all of this. I've allowed my hate for my mother-in-law to ruin my marriage. This is a throwaway account, and I need some advice. A little background about me: I've been married for 5 years. My husband and I also have a 4-year-old daughter together. My husband has a twin brother, and also another brother who is a few years younger than he is. His parents are divorced. I come from a family whose parents should have gotten divorced, but are still together. I'll spare you the childhood trauma for another day. My husband claims he had the most wonderful upbringing, saying that he had the best and most supportive parents in the entire world, and I can assure you his parents do love him very much, and I am happy for him in that aspect. I truthfully used to adore his mother. I genuinely thought she was the nicest lady, and she was very kind. When my husband and I had our daughter, we lived 13 hours away from our closest family members. So it was him and I alone for a while. Shortly after my daughter turned 1, I got an extremely bad UTI that resulted in me being hospitalized. Because we had no help from family because they were so far away, his mother offered to come help us until I got better. I was extremely sick, and I will admit, I got depressed. This is where it all fell apart. As she was staying in my home, I caught her texting my husband about me. Sending texts like, "She actually got out of bed, and ready today." The thing that really set me off is one day I was getting ready to go to the hospital to get my 4 antibiotics, and I caught her talking about me on the phone. She was saying that I was depressed and couldn't care for my child. Even though I had been taking care of my daughter and doing just fine without anyone's help the first year of her life, living 13 hours away from everyone we knew. She quickly realizes I knew she was talking about me, and she hangs up. I go in the guest bedroom to do my makeup, and she starts crying, saying how mean I am to her son, and I'm too depressed to take care of my kid. And it offended me. I felt like she should have been there to help out, but instead, just made things worse on me, and I found it to be intrusive. I grabbed my daughter, and I told her I would come back when she left. I called my husband, expecting to get support, but instead, just end up getting yelled at, and him taking his mother's side. From then on, it hasn't changed. His mother and I ended up making amends, and we were fine for a while. We were still very far away from family, and I thought like it would be a good idea for her to be around her granddaughter more. So I spoke to my husband, and we felt like it would be a good idea for her to move in because she was lonely as well, and I feel like it would be good for my daughter to be raised around her grandmother. This was a huge mistake on my part. She had just moved in at the beginning of 2020, and it's all gone downhill from then. I do all the grocery shopping, cleaning, cooking, basically everything. While she does work, she only pays us $350 for food and rent. That's all together. Not separately. The only thing she touches is her laundry, her bathroom, and her room. She doesn't offer to do grocery shopping, even for herself. She doesn't offer to cook dinner, or even help me out. I feel like since she has lived with us, it has just been an extreme burden on me. I have an 11-year-old son who comes to see me occasionally, and she made him cry a few times, to the point where he doesn't want to come visit me anymore. I've confronted her about it, she denied it and called me crazy, and my husband ended up yelling at me and blaming me and my family for it. She is extremely passive-aggressive. She makes little comments that just get under my skin. But she acts totally different towards my husband. She puts on this facade, and acts like the best mother and grandmother in the world to him and other people, but she's actually the most phony person I've ever met. She rarely spends one-on-one time with my daughter, but yet she'll post on Facebook how much fun she has with her, when in all actuality she spends the majority of her time on her phone or shopping. There will be a package at the house if not every day, every other day. She basically has no bills. And that's because me and my husband had helped her out. Last month it just got to the point where I just couldn't take any more, and I snapped. I told her how I really felt about her. I told her that I really just couldn't stand her, and I accept full responsibility for everything I said, but I'd be lying if I said the things I told her weren't true. Since then, my husband has wanted a divorce, but right now we are separated, and he wants to work things out, but I'd be lying if I said I wanted to move back in while my mother-in-law still lives there. She is extremely nosy about my marriage. She tells me how to parent and buy stuff for my daughter even though I do not approve of the things that she buys. She tells me how to discipline my child and gives me unsolicited advice. I really don't want any of it, and every time I try to tell my husband it bothers me, he takes her side. He told me in order for us to work on our marriage I have to learn how to love his mother. But I just can't force myself to do it. She is the most passive-aggressive, soul-sucking person I've ever met. Not to mention extremely nosy. I don't know what to do. I don't know how to save my marriage at this point. I have allowed her actions and behavior to affect me so bad, and I really just hate her. Any advice would be appreciated.
This is the end of today's stories. Don't forget to like and subscribe. See you soon.